I love iMacs, and this M4 iMac is possibly the best iMac that there's ever been. But for all that I love it and love working on it, who's it for? And what's the one big mistake you should avoid if you're thinking of buying an M4 iMac? I'm David, and this is Talking Tech. One of the things that keeps me coming back to the iMac is, well, because it's the most Mac of all Macs. Does that make sense? It's been with us for very nearly 30 years. But when it got its refresh about 4 years ago, suddenly it felt fresh and vibrant and new and really contemporary again. And it's the Mac, of course, that helped to save the company as well. Now, the iMac that I fell in love with the most, it wasn't my first iMac, but the iMac that means the most to me is my 2015 27-inch Intel iMac. And I hammered that to death. And for some reason, it's the Mac that I still think of as being my Mac, even though I haven't used it now for a couple of years. But where does the iMac fit into Apple's current lineup? I've said before that I think we're in a golden era of Apple design and Apple hardware. Leaving some of the software issues to one side for the moment, the hardware that we've got is amongst the best there's ever been. But the iMac now has got a really hard space to try and fill because we've got fantastic MacBook Airs, we've got MacBook Pros, of course, we've got the Mac Studio, and we've got the M4 Mac Mini as well. And you know how much I love that. So where does it fit into the lineup, and is it's still relevant? When Apple launched its new design iMac 4 years ago, it immediately made the old Intel iMacs look old, bloated, and dated. The new iMacs are chic, elegant, refreshed, vibrant. And I know the chin isn't to everybody's liking, but that chin makes it very much an iMac. And I like what they've done with it. They've accented it with the color that's on the back of your iMac, and I think it really works. It suits this Mac, and it suits it because it is an iMac. Last week, I was talking about the idea of buying into the brand of Apple. And this iMac is a really good example of that. Just look at the design that's gone into it. The grille on the speaker, for instance, is a beautiful design in and of itself. The corners are beautifully engineered. And if you just look at the stand, all the little nuances and designs and curves, it just feels beautiful. And of course, you've got the mechanics of how the actual stand works. It just feels lovely and beautifully engineered and weighted. And that's kind of part of what buying into Apple is all about. You're getting that premium brand experience. Now, I love my M4 Pro Mac Mini. I love my studio display, but that combination still doesn't feel like an iMac. Somehow an iMac is more immersive. You sit in front of an iMac, there's less distractions, and you know everything's happening just in this one box in front of you. It's hard to describe, but the iMac has got a special place in my heart just for the way it pulls me in. A moment ago, I mentioned the Mac Mini, and when we mention the Mac Mini, generally the word value comes out afterwards. Yes, it can be good value, but so is the iMac. I'm going to spec up that Mac Mini, that base Mac Mini, as similarly as I can to its equivalent iMac, and you'll see what I mean, that the iMac is great value for money. With that base level Mac Mini, you get 10 cores of CPU, 10 cores of GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of SSD storage. But of course, it's a standalone item. You need to add on £149 for the Magic Keyboard. You need to add on £79 for the Magic Mouse. Already we're £827, and you haven't got the display. As you know, you get a gorgeous display with the iMac. So if we look at the studio display, yes, it's bigger, 27 inches. So if we scale that price down 20, 30, 50%, if we take 50% off of the price of the studio display, that's still £750. So if you put that all together, you're still paying £1,577 for the equivalent spec Mac Mini as you are to the iMac. And of course, the iMac is all-in-one and ready to go. It's £100 cheaper to go and buy the iMac of equivalent specs. So I mean, it's value for money. Now, you could say, sure, I'll save some more money by getting a cheaper display, but why do that to yourself? It's the display that you sit in front of every day. It's the display that you look at. It's the soul. It's the window to the soul of the machine. You owe it to yourself to have a good display. If you're going to be spending hours working in front of it, you need a good quality display. And I bet you, if you go and get a cheaper quality display to sit in front of and work every day, pretty soon you'll regret it and you'll be looking to spend more money. Get yourself a good display. The studio display, or the display on the iMac, is 4.5K. It's got 500 nits of brightness. It's plenty bright enough. It's pixel dense and it's color accurate. And also, it's got an impressive contrast ratio as well, which helps keeping the blacks look really black on both these screens. In short, the Retina displays on iMacs are impressive. And once you've worked on a Retina display, you really don't want to go back. The M4 iMacs are even better value when you consider that this year they came with 16 gigs of RAM for the same price that the M3 iMacs came with. Not only are you getting that 16 gigs of RAM, you're also getting the speed and efficiency of the M4 chip as well. They really are stacking up to be fantastic value for money, these M4 iMacs. A quick sub really does help the channel more than I can explain to you. It really does help the channel grow. So if you're enjoying this content, sub, share, turn on notifications. it really would help me out. Now, at the top of the video, I mentioned about don't make a mistake. There's one mistake you need to avoid, and that is don't buy that entry £1,299 iMac. Don't do it. The main reason is it's got bin chips. You've only got 8 cores of CPU and 8 cores of GPU. They're using a bin chip in it and helping to keep the price down. With the £1,500 Mac that we've been speccing the Mac Mini up to, that mid-price one, that's where I think you need to go. You've got the full 10 cores of CPU, 10 cores of GPU, and also you get the choice to go up to 32 gigs of memory. And these Apple Silicon iMacs are all about the memory. You also get 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and Thunderbolt 4, you've heard me talk about Thunderbolt 5, Thunderbolt 4, they're really quick. They open up a world of opportunities to you. And again, with that mid-tier Mac, you can get Nano texture as well. Now, Nano texture isn't for everybody. I've used it, I've experienced it. It works really well. It cuts out virtually all of the glare. For my liking and the kind of work I do, my eyes and my preferences, it just makes all of the colors a little bit too subdued. But if you're working in a studio space or your home office and you know that there's light coming through at a certain time of day that's really unbearable, Nano texture could be an option. It's £200 more. It's a one and done. Put it on the Mac at the time of buying it and you'll be sorted. But I would honestly say go and have a look at it in store first. If you haven't seen Nano texture, go and take a look at it. Make sure you're happy with it. But at least then you have got the option of speccing that onto that mid-tier Mac. That's why you need to avoid that entry-level Mac. It's too limiting. You can't get the extra RAM on it. You can't get the Nano texture on it. And you've only got 2 ports in it as well. Those extra 2 ports are super, super useful. It's a no-brainer. If you're looking at an M4 iMac, start off by looking at that £1,500 one. It's a great starting point. Now, of course, depending upon what your workflow is, you might want to tweak the specs of that standard £1,500 mid-priced or mid-tiered iMac. It starts with 16 gigs of RAM. I would always say put your money in RAM. It's taken me a long time to realize that these Apple Silicon Macs are all about the RAM. Get that right and you'll be set for life. I've experienced working on an 8 gig iMac and it's painful. Pretty soon you get those messages coming up saying that there's memory swap or it's full and it's just, you feel it's struggling. It's not a nice experience. 16 gigs sure will help, and for many people will be good enough. You know what you're going to be using your iMac for, but don't think that an iMac is just for browsing the web and light office work. It's not. It's got an M4 Apple Silicon chip inside of it. You could go up to 32 gigs of memory, and I'll tell you, if you do that, this thing is going to be set for years. Spend as much money as you can on that memory. As for storage, 512 minimum. I wouldn't think about 256 on iMac. It's not enough for long-term use. 512 minimum. There's an argument to say go for 1 terabyte. There's some benefits that come along through having 1 terabyte of SSD in there. But don't forget, this is a desktop Mac, which means you haven't got to think about portability and you can easily attach Thunderbolt 4 SSD external storage to the back of your iMac. You'll hardly ever see it. And then you've got a great expanse and it's more flexible and it gives you opportunities to upgrade that whenever you want. So probably, I would say the sweet spot, if you're looking to go for the Mac, is start off with that mid-priced iMac and go for 32 gigs of memory if you can possibly afford it, probably 1 terabyte of onboard storage, and then look to expand it with some external SSD. You know your workflow, but workflows generally only go in one direction. They always get harder. I found out that the hard way, and I'm sure it'll be the same for you too. So always plan for the future. And if you're holding back thinking, I'm not going to buy the 24-inch iMac now just in case a larger iMac comes on. Everybody loves that large 27-inch iMac that I had. People are saying there's a new 27-inch iMac coming along, a 32-inch iMac coming along. I haven't seen any rumors that are worth believing to say that we're going to be getting a large iMac anytime soon. Why would Apple do it? It doesn't fit into their inventory right now. You've got the 27-inch Studio display, and also you've got the Mac Studio and the Mac Mini that go with it. That kind of obviates the need and requirements to have an iMac, a large iMac, as far as I would have seen. This 24-inch iMac, however, sits perfectly in their lineup. Now, there are rumors that the displays are going to get improvements this year, and that leads me on to a little bit of information I saw when I was looking at the specs of that mid-priced iMac that we've been talking about. It supports an 8K display, which makes me wonder, you know how Apple bring everything together down the line? I'm wondering if there's an 8K display. Maybe the Pro Display XDR is going to become 8K, and the iMac would then support a secondary display up to, I think it's 60 hertz 8K. It was just some spec I saw. I was just speculating there. But anyway, I haven't seen anything to suggest that a large iMac is coming back. So if you're not buying an iMac right now because you want a large iMac, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. Buy this iMac now and enjoy it. Don't wait. And who is this M4 iMac really aimed at? Who's it for? If you have got one of those Intel iMacs and you're eking it out, thinking it's still working, I promise you, you owe it to yourself. Try Apple Silicon. It makes the world of difference. When I went from that Intel iMac to my first Apple Silicon Mac, which was a MacBook Pro, it's day and night. So if you love working on iMacs and you're trying to eke out the very last bit of life of your beloved Intel 27-inch iMac, it's time to rest it. Mine's not going anywhere, I'm going to keep it, but it's not a working Mac anymore. Honestly, you owe it to yourself to try an Apple Silicon Mac. Also, if you bought one of these new shaped iMacs back in 2021, the M1 Mac with only 8 gigs of RAM, you'll know that pinch point, that pain point I was talking about earlier on with the memory getting full. It's just a painful experience. So again, you've had 4 years of use out of it. It's probably time that you could think about moving on as well. Because M1 to M4, I've worked on all of them. I've worked on M1, M2, M3, and M4 Macs. And the jump between M1 and M4 is meaningful. No, it's not as big as the jump from Intel to Apple Silicon, but it is a meaningful jump forward. So if you got the specs wrong on your original new-shaped iMac, possibly it's time to move on. And also one other group of people it's for, if you're in a limited space of working and you want a really tidy desk setup, the iMac is perfect. Yes, the Mac Mini and the Studio Display are good, but there's still cables involved. With the iMac, of course, potentially you've only got one cable running into the back, because don't forget, the mid-price iMac we're looking at has got Ethernet in the power brick as well. So all of the cables are out of sight on the floor. You've got just one machine in front of you, one bit of kit sitting on a desk with just the keyboard and the mouse, which, as we know, of course, are now USB-C. Honestly, if you're thinking of looking at an iMac and you've just been holding back, there'll always be M5, there'll be M6, there's always going to be something new. Don't wait. These M4 iMacs are a special bit of kit, and the only regret I've got is that I don't get to use mine often enough. Through this video, I've been talking to you about displays quite a bit. I really can't stress to you the importance of a display, and in this video, I'll talk to you why I think the Studio Display is worth every penny that I spent on it a few years ago.